Hi, I'm Shawn Hammond with PremierGuitar.com. We're backstage with Chris Squire from Yes. Thanks so much, Chris, for showing us your rig.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. You too, man. So this is the one. This is the bass that you have done a million amazing things with from the 60s to now?
Or little baby. I've had her since 1964, and sort of, yeah, we became famous together.
So Rickenbacker 4001 from 64, you said?
Yeah, they had a different name for it because it was bought in England. They gave it a different model number, but it's basically a 4001. Yeah. If I bought it in America, it would have been called that. Yeah.
What is still stock on it? What has changed over the years? Probably a million things have many times, huh?
Well, yeah. What happened? Originally, it was one of the classic Rickenbacker red sunburst color, and then around the Flower Power period in the 60s, in my previous band, Yes, the Sin, I put this wallpaper on it, or that had flowers on it, and then, of course, after a while, I got bored with that, so I took it to this guitar maker, Sam Lee, our guitar repair guy in London, and he shaved it all off, and in the process of removing that stuff, he shaved some of the wood down, so it became a little bit lighter, I guess, than the other basses. And then, lo and behold, of course, I went and put some silver sticky paper all over it, so it was all silver and reflective. And when I got bored with that, I took it back to this guy again, and once again he had to take all this stuff off of it and shave it down again, and then he did this cream lacquer, and he asked me, please don't do it anymore. So I didn't. So it's been this cream color for about 45 years now. But in the process, of course, of all that happening, the neck and the body lost quite a bit of wood weight, and so it became, less. Well, I guess it's just lighter than the regular stock Ricks, and possibly because of that, it has the sound it has, which is kind of always been a lot brighter than the other stock models and other Rickenbackers I've had since that the company have let me have, and don't quite ever sound like this one. Plus the fact this back pickup was always never very good, which has got something to do with it. It has a very low output, very tinny sound.
And it's the same pickup from all this time.
Yeah, it's the same pickup. Yeah, yeah. So it's got its own characteristics. But as I said, I grew up with this bass, and we made a lot of hits together.
That's for sure. Now, way back in the 60s, did you play flat wounds on it ever, or have you always used round wounds?
No, I always started off with round wounds. I was even using round wounds on basses I had prior to this, which was, basses. I think I just had an Italian Futurama bass guitar, which cost about $30 or something before this. But no, I got into the round wound strings mainly because of John Entwistle, I guess. With the Who, he pioneered them, and I liked the sound, and so I went with them.
Now, before we move on to the other basses in your boat, have you changed the wiring at all in this? Or?
Yeah, very early in the 70s, I wired the pickup so they came out to a stereo jack, so that the treble pickup goes to the tip of the stereo, and the bass pickup goes to the sleeve, and the reason why I did that was not because I wanted to play in stereo, was because I wanted to route certain effects not through both pickups, so that when I used the bass pickup, for instance, I only used my fuzz tone on the bass pickup. It wouldn't sound good with the treble pickup, so with the course also of evolving, my sort of switching system, which is now I'm on about the 7th upgrade here, different from the very first one I had. But over the years. They haven't necessarily improved, actually. The one I had in the 80s was actually the best, quietest one.
And you're still using those stereo outputs the same way you did way back when you had it done?
It's to wire things differently through the different effects. And sometimes the treble pickup goes to not the bass.
Okay, great. What should we look at next?
Okay, well, there's various things. If you want to turn around over there on that guitar stand, that's a pretty old bass that I've had since the 70s, early 70s, and that's a Fender Jazz, and I've used that quite a bit on Yes recordings over the years, and still.
Any standout tracks that you use that on?
It's on Parallels. I'm going for the one that we're doing tonight, and I also have a Telecaster Fender that I don't have with me on the road right now that I used on the song Adventure that we're playing tonight, so I use that instead. So, and
that's pretty much stock too.
No, I think I put an extra pickup on there. I'm not sure. Let me have a look. No, I think it came with those pickups. Yeah, I put an extra pickup on the Telecaster as well.
Okay. Now down here we have the triple neck. That's pretty incredible. Tell us about that.
That originally was a bass that was made by Wall, and belonged to Rick Wakeman. That he had it assembled for his band that he had in the 70s. Of course, it's a very heavy instrument, and the original one actually started to become pretty unplayable. The neck started bending, and it didn't work very well. But very fortunate for me, there's Japanese. It's a Japanese copy made by this company Kids, who, for some notion I have no clue about, he decided to just copy the original down to every detail of the finish and the leather and everything that's on there. And
what are you playing this on tonight?
I only ever use this on one song. It's called Awaken, from the Going for the One album.
And you use all three necks on that song?
It's got a fretless that I use and a fretted neck in the middle, and then at the top it was originally a guitar neck, but I use it as 6 strings of an 8-string bass set. So it's tuned A, D, and G.
Still got Telecaster style pickups in there. Do you know what those are?
Yeah, I don't. I don't know whether they're exactly the same. I think they're the same as was on the original Wall, which for years now has been hanging in the Hard Rock Cafe somewhere in New York originally, but they rotate them.
And the same with the other split pickups down there, which are pretty unusual. Are you not sure of the make of those?
I don't really know what they. I think he just copied what Wall did originally, so I don't really know much about what pickups they are.
And is there like a volume and tone for each neck, I'm guessing? Or actually, there's only 4 knobs there. So.
Well, I think there's an overall tone, and most of them are all taped up, as you can see. So I don't screw up during the show.
Now on the 2 top necks, you've got the pickup selector taped in position. Is that for the bridge position for both?
Yeah, because it's well confusing. If you hit some of these by accident, you wouldn't know what was going on.
Now the top one are you using the neck pickup there then?
I think so. Yes, it looks like it, doesn't it? Yes, whatever it is. It's been a long time since we taped them up.
Chris, this green bass is one that you've been seeing with a lot over the last few years. Tell us about it.
It was made by Jim Meridian. I designed it with him in the 70s, and it was originally, as you can kind of see, we wanted it was like a CS bass. So there's the C and there's the S, and so that was kind of dictated the design of the wood, and it looks kind of definitely a bit metal-y and everything, but. It sounds really good, and it's always played really well, and I use it quite a lot.
Did you specify the body shape, or did he just kind of take liberties?
We kind of did it together, yeah. We designed it together.
What can you tell us about the pickups? Those are unusual looking.
Oh, once again, that was his department. Whatever he put in.
Are they active?
No, it's not an active bass. So, in fact, there's kind of a bit rusty there too.
Tell us about the controls here.
Just a tone and volume for each pickup, and a pickup selector in the middle.
3-way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Using both. So that's that. And then, of course, I've got a spare black Rickenbacker. Should anything happen to this one, but of course it doesn't sound really anything like it. So.
Can we take a look at it real quick?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. It's fairly recent bass, I think, made in the last 10 years or something. I think, yeah. And of course, it's got my custom fish out of water design on it, and my face on the back from the fish out of water album cover.
Now, you didn't ask John Hall and the guys at Rickenbacker to shave down the body to make it more like your main.
When they came to make the Chris Squire signature model, they did come to my house and weigh my Rickenbacker and took pickup readings and stuff. But I think it was all a bit arbitrary, really, because when they made them, it didn't sound anything like mine. So, but they have my name on them anyway. There's this 8-string Ranny, which was made by a guy in Chicago, and he also made me a 12-string guitar. And then I think he disappeared from the scene. But this is a really good 8-string bass, and it's very in tune right up to the 24th fret, which is a miracle for an 8-string bass.
The body looks a little bit alembic inspired.
Yeah. Once again, it's a real heavy too, and that's an active bass.
What are you playing that on again?
Tonight I'm playing it on Going for the One, which calls for an 8-string. Originally it was a Rickenbacker 8-string that I played on the recording. And last but not least is my custom-made Tobias bass. Because when everyone was getting 5-string basses, and I got a few, and I had a Tobias 5-string originally, and I said to Mike one day, instead of having this 5-string bass, can I just get a 4-string and just have it longer so it goes lower? Uh-huh. And he said, yeah, I can make you that. So basically, yeah, this is tune B, E, A, D, and although for the track I'm using it on tonight, Turn of the Century, the low string is a C, so C, E, A, D at the moment. And yeah, that's, it's a really good quality guitar and has a great sound.
All right, so now we're going to switch to talking to Richard, who is Chris's tech. Chris had to take off to get ready for the show tonight. Richard, what can you tell us about these Marshall heads we're looking at?
They're just very old. He's had it since about 1965, and I had a guy work on it who works on Clapton's amps, and it was the oldest one he'd ever seen.
We're talking about the top one, right?
The lower one.
Oh, the bottom one.
The top one is a spare amp that we've never used. Fortunately, the main amp, works all the time.
So what year are you thinking that the bottom one is?
65.
You got some colorful knobs on there. Did you steal those out of a studio from a mixing board?
That's been there ever since I've worked for Chris.
Okay, so was that pretty much his main sound?
It was modded because back in the 70s when I first started with him, it used to feed a power amp that fed two 6x12 speakers as well. It ran a Marshall head, a 4x12 head, and then it fed into a power amp that fed two 6x12s.
Do you remember the make of the 612 cab?
They were custom built by Clare Brothers.
Oh.
For the round stage that they used for Tomato. They laid flat on the ground, and each speaker was at a different angle. So wherever Chris was on the stage, they were pointing at him, or two were pointing at him.
So is that pretty much the main part of his sound, the Marshalls still?
Yes. Well, and then he has the Ampeg down there, so he's got the two 8x10s. And
so we've got SVT2 Pros in the rack down here. Now, does he run them at the same time and mix the signal?
Yeah.
How much? What would you say the ratio was, Ampeg to Marshall? Or does it vary by tune?
Yes, it does. It varies by bass, actually. The levels of them, they're kind of equal level, but each one, they have to change each time he changes the basses.
So I'm guessing he uses the Ampegs for more of the clean, brawny sound and the Marshalls for a little more grit, or is that the other way around? Or
I think you're probably right. I mean, that's something we've never really ever talked about it. He just...
So does he just set them himself? And
No. I control all this, but I don't know quite when we started with the Ampeg stuff. Probably in the early 80s. Well, because those speakers were custom built, they didn't really work when they stood up like that, because there were speakers pointing every which way. So yeah, we got involved with Ampeg, and it's been there ever since. So that's my controller for his. It's a kind of the same match as his pedal board out the front there, which is custom built.
Okay.
This just controls the effect so that if he misses one, I can put it in.
Okay.
Or the one in the center is a tremolo or vibrato, which was custom made in the 60s, I guess. The other one is a Maestro fuzz box, which is from the 60s also.
Yeah.
And then the TC chorus, flanger, and
the Boss Super Octave.
An octave box that we don't really use that much.
Okay, and then under that?
On the bottom is the Mutron, which he's had for years. And then a reverb and a delay, TC. That gradually over the years we've upgraded to those two, which he likes. SWR bass pedal, and that runs through an Energy 2x15 cabinet, and the ESI 2000 is the samples of the original bass pedals, which were from a Moog Taurus and some weird something from Italy called a Deutron. It was an Italian little, almost like a toy, I think. I never ever saw it. But Chris had the insides taken out, and they used to be built in with a Taurus pedal, and then we sampled it, and it's been on samples now for 15 years.
Cool. Well, thank you, Richard. We're going to go talk to Steve now. Have a great show, man.
And you.
See ya.
Thank you.
All right, we're talking with Steve Howe from Yes. He's got his big guitar boat here. Well, not as big as it could be, because you have tons of instruments you're famous for.
Yeah.
What are you playing tonight? You guys are playing the Yes album, Close to the Edge, and going for the one in their entirety, so you've got to cover a lot of different sounds.
Yeah. So basically, I've got the guitars that cover those three albums. Besides the steel guitar on stage, which we'll get to in a minute, we've got some electric guitars, and over there some acoustic guitars. So this guitar here, this is the kind of guitar I'm more famous for playing. This is a 175. This is a 1964 175. It's, if you like, it's my genuine number two. In other words, the number one that I've had since 1964 has to now only work in Europe, because I don't fly with it. I don't ship it. But this we ship around. It's a lovely guitar. It's hardly played, and I'm now playing it at the maximum. And it's an original 175 64. So I have a spare one of those because that's an intrinsic guitar. So this model is a Gibson Steve Howe model 175. This one's the only one I know of. Well, this is the only one I've customized to 3 pickups. So it emulates the ES5 Switchmaster guitar. So when you're in 2 positions and then you pull the tone control, this one, then you get the 3rd pickup. So anytime you leave that up, wherever you are, you'll get that one plus the other combinations.
Are there specific songs that you've used that pickup
This is
for?
really my standby, So I play all the 175 songs on this 175. This one's here in case string breaks, tuning goes horrible, or any other complications come up with the guitar. So now what happened was, when I recorded the Yes album, it featured the 175, and that was the primal guitar that as I say, my first one of those. But then when we got to Fragile, I was using the ES Switchmaster, which is the guitar, as I said, this one can simulate if we play any of those songs. But when we came to Close to the Edge, then I'd adopted this guitar. This is a 345 stereo, and this is basically the one I was received from Gibson in 1970 for a string ad, and then I found I just loved playing it. And when we did Edge, this is the guitar I played throughout the album. So it's standard in a sense, but this tailpiece is actually from a Birdland, and Gibson registered it ES345 for me. Machine heads are generally changed.
Same pickups though?
But everything's the same technically, yeah. So I use mainly position 2 on the stereo choices. Now this thing here is to convert stereo to mono properly, because I used to use it in two Fender Twins, but now I'm since 2006. We'll talk about it in a minute with line 6. I use 1 amp. I have 2 of them, of course, but one's a spare. So now moving along, the other album that we play is Going for the One, and on that it opens with me playing the Fender Steel, which we'll have a look at in a minute. The next song I play on this Les Paul. Well, I play on a Martin to start with, which we'll come to. This guitar is a original 56 Black Beauty, which is of course a marvellous guitar, and full of character and warmth. And I play this in the electric sections of the song Turn of the Century. It's quite a lot of notes, and you need a guitar that you can sort of play comfortably. After Turn of the Century, we go to Parallels, which features the only time at this point in the 70s I was using a Stratocaster. So this is a mid-80s Stratocaster, because my other one got stolen. It had a Sunburst 66 or something.
Is this the same one you were using with like Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe and stuff?
Along then, when I was using ABWH and lots of other work, lots of solo work on this guitar. This is a lovely Strat. You might notice I've moved the things over. I mean, I rarely use the tone at the back, so we moved the 2 down because I found this was a busy area, cluttered on all Stratocasters, and I need to be playing. See how I'm holding my hand there? With the volume there, it's useless, so I eventually took that off. This is pretty stock, but this is when they went back to making them fully in America. So then when we get to Awaken, I don't know where it is, we'll come to it in a second, is a Steinberger 12-string that I love. I've got a 6-string and a 12-string. And in the song Awaken, which is one of the last songs, it is the last song of Going for the One, I play the Steinberger 12-string, I'll show you in a minute. I play the steel guitar, but also this is a 55 customised Fender Telecaster, maple neck, original back pickup, a humbucker, and the switch. This is deactivated. I went Gibson on the switch. At this time in the 70s, I wouldn't say I was reckless, but I didn't mind customizing a guitar, whatever it was, to my needs.
So you're the one who added the individual saddles and
the 3 pickup, the 3 saddles were nowhere near inadequate enough to get any real intonation. And I added this switch, which is kind of like a bit of a send-up, since it's where the 175 is and the Les Paul. So that's the first batch, quite rare Steinberger 12-string that I used for Awaken. On the original recording, I used a Rickenbacker 12-string. It was then stolen, and I couldn't find one as nice as that at the time. And then, they're very difficult to tune every day and restring every day. This is exactly the opposite. Wonderful to play, double octave neck, really highly sophisticated, you get all the pitch you want. And the sounds, on these EMG pickups. So this is what I use for Awaken. And
what was the main selling point going from Rickenbacker to Steinberger, which most people would say that's sort of polar opposites? Was the main selling point the tuning stability?
Well, yeah, I started using guitar processing, so I can get this guitar to sound pretty much like a Rickenbacker anyway, or as much as to my ear I can. Playability is vital, uncomfortable, staying in tune, not breaking strings. There's a lot of things I could stack up against a Rickenbacker 12 string. One thing I would say is that they sound great. But I would say that there is a level of compromise I'm always prepared to make to get a good guitar that's solid, that stays in tune, that I have fun with, and I'm not agonizing over. The other guitar that comes in 2 albums, the Yes album and the Going for the One, is when I play this Portuguese guitar. This is called a Portuguese 12-string, and this has been around. I have one other, a newer one, but this one just sounds far superior. This guitar came from Spain. My sister thought it was a Spanish guitar. And then I had it around for years, and eventually it was on. I use it, first of all, in the Yes album for I've Seen No Good People. So, and then Wondrous Stories is once again. So I have to invent my own chord shapes on this guitar because it's tuned E, B, E, B, E, A flat. So work that one out. So
did you choose that tuning, or is that how it came?
No, I kind of made that up. I thought it sounded nice as an open tuning guitar, and that's what I played.
Do you know much about the origin of it, the manufacturer, or the?
You see many people from Portugal playing them. I guess that's the main selling point. There are some virtuosos of it that obviously don't use my tuning, but there are some guys I've seen playing it. Sometimes they have a headstock that's a bit reminiscent of a cittern from the mid-19th century, where the machine heads are up the top, they fanned out, a bit like my fingers, machine heads like this kind of thing. But that one has a guitar, conventional guitar thing. Also, yes, 9 voices, other songs have been played on that guitar. It's got a very distinctive sound. Now this is where I play my...
That's your signature model?
This is the Martin MC38 Steve Howe. You can see my signature there. And basically, Martin and I have had a great relationship. I played their guitar since 1968. And I'm very much homegrown on a Martin. So this is the second signature model. The original one was an 0018. This one is based on the MC28 that I played for many years. The Martin said, well, we should make you one, really nice one. So this is a beautiful guitar. I use it for clap, and also I use it for turn of the century. So that I like to use a real acoustic when I can, when it's containable. But if we were to go round a little bit and talk about 2 other instruments that I use, this is a pretty standard Variax 600 model. This is the kind of model I got first from them. And I use it for the sitar guitar, which is a cranky old Dan Electro guitar that it wouldn't even stand the test of time on here. And I've still got the original. But this makes all the sounds with this switch here, which is your guitar real selector. Do you want a jazz box? Do you want the semi-acoustic Gibson? Do you want the Rickenbackers? Do you want the Gretsch? Do you want the SGs? Do you want a Les Paul? Do you want a Stratocaster? Do you want a Telly? And then you assemble the guitars you're currently wanting on your custom switch, so that all 5, say, guitars are accessible. So I use this in songs like loads of songs in You and I. Goodness me, I can't remember. It comes in and out of Yours Is No Disgrace, and I play acoustic spots on it. When I've got a major guitar on, and also the sitar. But it has other capabilities.
So what are the main settings you're using on it?
Well, I'm using the sitar, which is part of this one, Rezo. If you go around to Rezophonic, that's where the sitar... on my website, I've offered the world, if you like, a very simple way of looking at the Variax. Because in the manual, it's fantastic. You get a page on each setting. But what I said to them is, I want to see a chart, that says there they are. And it's amazing how many guitars are contained within this through the digital modelling. And they go to a lot of trouble to get that right. So currently I've got 3 guitars. I've got a Guild 12-string here, and then I've got a Martin 018 here, and then there I've got the sitar guitar. So the show goes through, and we jiggle in and out of those particular guitars.
Now, while we walk over to the steel, I wanted to ask before we forget about your Martin signature model. Are you using a mic on stage to get that? Because I didn't see an onboard system.
Fishman. We're using Fishman setup. So we've got some of the latest Fishman gear. Another one I have has a different kind of era as Fishman, but we keep up to date with what they recommend, and I do endorse Fishman, and we've got a box over there you can take a shot.
One of the Aura systems or something.
That's right. So fundamentally, I use that really as a go-between. I don't use it for the modelling that's in there. Given more time and a different situation, I might do that. But at the moment, I like to just hear the guitar I'm actually playing. So which brings us on to when this guitar comes into action.
Going for the one, right?
Well, yeah, but on You and I, it comes in and out quite a bit with the song On You and I from the Close to the Edge album. And then, as you said, going for the one, it's the only guitar I play. And at the moment, how I've got it set up is I've got my usual E tuning, which is like an E chord, but the bottom string is the same as the 4th string. So they're unison, because quite honestly, with a bar and a fat string on the bottom, it really is hard to tune. And then on this neck, I pretend it's a pedal steel, because on Awaken, actually, I played pedal steel as well. So that tuning is like the Nashville. So it's the first 6 strings of a Nashville E9 pedal steel. No pedals, I can't do that here. I did used to play pedal steel on stage when we did To Be Over from Relaya, and also Awaken in the early days. I had a separate Showbud pedal steel, like set there, static, with its own pedal board. And but you know, some lengths you go to either drive you crazy, or you suddenly think, no, I've got to simplify this. You know, it's one steel, one acoustic. You know, keep it kind of simple. And then this amp is where I've come to, and I think it's a terrific amp. The actual mod
DT50, is that what it is?
It's the Bogner, and DT50 Bogner. And I'm very, very impressed. I mean, if you put a good guitar in here, it winds up very loud if you want to play loud, or it's a very rich sound if you want to play at the kind of levels that I do, which is somewhere between, you know, it's a medium sort of level. I mean, I've never been a 100-watt ear blaster guy, you know.
I want to get the tubes working a little bit.
I like to hear things working up a bit, and that's what's nice about this. So basically this is just delivering us a kind of the flat sound we want, because all the work is really going on in the HD 500. So I don't have any other boxes, you know, I don't carry anything else. This is where I make my sound for electric guitars. The box at the end just cuts between the guitar I'm playing and the steel. So that's like A, B. A is a guitar, B is the steel. So that is part of my moving in and out of sounds. And what I do is I sit down and I put on a record like Yours Is No Disgrace, and it goes dun 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 dun. So I sit down with the guitar I'm going to play with a guy called Steve Burnett in the UK, and he basically jumps on board and we start talking how to get this sound. How much reverb's on that? How bright is it? I mean, how much compression have you got on this guitar? Then it goes to the next sound. So once again, how much delay are you hearing? What kind of texture? What pickup are you going to use? So we basically talk through endless amounts.
Now, when you're talking, are you saying, okay, I remember in the studio I used this and this, so go to their approximation of that, or are you just kind of going by your ears?
There's 2 ways we do it. Yeah, sometimes we may talk about the coming to that, or Steve may think that, in fact, you know, maybe that we have got a Vox on board there, or you might say to me, we're using Fenders, and we'll start with a Fender. So the modelling will go that way, and then we end up with 16, or at the moment it's most probably about 10 different banks. If you go to the one it's on now, it says close to. That's because, you know, if I go there, it's close to 1. So this is close to the edge, obviously. And, you know, by going back and calling up the thing, we go to change, which is perpetual change. So, yeah, I keep the titles up there. My set list just has the numbers on it. So if it says perpetual change, we're playing it, it'll be number 4. Right. So I do those changes just because I do. You know, I mean, I like to know I'm there. But at the same time, some songs are quite complex. I go to a new song, and then I maybe have to select the steel if that's the first instrument I'm playing. I change guitars with Joe, you know, so there's a sort of procedure that goes on, and we've been doing this for years, so it's part of my story.
Do you ever get the itch, like when you're coming up with the patches, to like, oh, I didn't really quite like how this sounded on the album, can you make it a little bit more like this, or maybe even more rebellious, like, you know what, I always wish I had a Marshall on that track? Right.
Yeah, I'm not overly clinically, you know, I'm trying to be accurate. So in a way, the first call is get it like the record. But then if while doing that, you think, that's like the record, but I'm going to be a bit worried on stage because it's not gutsy enough, then we'll push the drive, you know, or we'll look at the top end and think how to do it. So we mix those things. The first call is accuracy, similarity to the real sound. And then the second thing is, oh yeah, but we're on stage, we might need a bit more. And certainly one of the complex things is getting levels right. You know, you choose a rhythm sound, then you've got the lead sound. You want to be, because I basically have always used the volume pedal on electric guitar since day one. And since I was a kid, my foot was always on it, and I took that from steel players because I liked the way you could voice notes. So then the wah-wah came along, and the fuzz box came along, and obviously I had pedal boards as big as box down here, you know. But then, you know, 2006, I put all that behind me and started using the Vata 2 Line 6 system, and then a little while back I upgraded to this. So I like the simplicity. There are compromises you have to make, but sometimes you make great sounds. You know, you sit there twiddling and you get on stage and suddenly, you know, somebody says, oh, what's that sound you're using here? And I go, oh, listen, it's this one. And I go, wow, it's really like the record. So it's partly to get the accuracy, and partly because it's fun anyway.
And the convenience. And I'm also curious, did Line 6 approach you? Did a friend turn you on to the possibilities, or you just kept up with technology and said, hey, that might work for me? Or?
Well, I walked into a store in a place called Barnstable in the West Country of England, and it's called Soundpad. And they said, oh, hi, Steve, how you doing? I said, yeah. I said, have you seen the Variax? And I went, huh. And they said, well, go and play it, and they gave it to me. And I was like, oh dear, this was made for me. It's got all these guitars inside it. So, then I got in touch with them myself and said, hey guys, I ought to be playing one of these. What do you think? So they said, oh, we'd love to have you on board. Here's one. And then they sent me another model, or the acoustic model came out, and then they sent me that. So they started really looking after me. And then I said, look, the programming idea is great. I'm fed up with all these boxes and cables and problems that you have when you're connecting, 10 different bits of gear. The nice thing about this guitar goes in it and it comes out the speaker. So all the complexity is all digital, and it's all, if you're a puritanical person and you want a Fender Bassman and you want all that stuff, that's great. I'm there too with that in the studio. I will do that. And I made whole albums using their system too. So I'm a real in-between guy. I've got my purist side. I like a full-body guitar with a real sound, and sometimes it's just like with my trio, I just use one sound, the front pickup straight in an amp. But other times, I like to be able to jiggle. And when we're doing Fly From Here, the sound selection on that album's quite wide. So Bumpy Ride has got quite a few weird sounds on it, and they're on there, Yeah. But right now, I've kind of cleared the deck, and what's on here is what I need.
Just a couple other questions. I know you got to get a go. Have you tried the new Line 6 James Tyler Variaxes?
Oh, no. I have that at home, and I see that as more of a performance guitar than these ones, because I've been throwing these on stands and jumping in and out of playing them more than sort of dedicated. There's two guitars that they do that I will definitely be using, and the JT59 is fantastic. It's really a nice combination of all the things that are good about guitars and good about Variaxes. And the other thing they did for me, bless them, is they made me a custom guitar, which many people have not seen. It's on, I think, Omega. You can see it vaguely on Omega by Asia, the CD. And basically it's a bit of a take on my stereo guitar. It's a brown double cutaway 335 style Variax, the only one in the world. So I'm very pleased to have a guitar. Now that really is my performance guitar. So gradually or eventually, unless my puritanical side holds, I could be playing a Variax all night, and that's it. Variax, this, I want my telly, I want my 175, I want me 335. So in fact, it's staring me in the face, blindingly obviously, that in the end, a Variax may be all I need for live. But I still have, real guitars.
You still have these attachments to these old friends.
That's right.
Now, with the DT50, are you using it in Class AB power tube mode?
It's on how we've set it at my house. I don't even look at it. As far as I'm concerned, once I've settled on liking a sound, it's kind of just catalogued, and it's the sound.
Okay. Now, we had some readers on Facebook who asked us to ask you about your string gauges, and I guess that on your B string, use the same gauge as the high E or something like that?
The only guitar I use it on, considering it is my main guitar, you can understand people are quite intrigued. On the 175 models, I only use 212s, a 16, so it's 212, 16, and then now we use 26, 40, 50. So it's a kind of quite heavy gauge. I've always been a heavy gauge player, and I like a 12 on top, because I need some resistance. I like the 12 as a second because, in fact, I get just the right amount of bend that I do need. I do bend. And likewise, the 16 on the third is actually quite bendy. Mm-hmm. So it's an odd mixture of kind of tight at the edges and softer in the middle, which allows me to do, if I'm bending strings, I virtually never bend the top string. So, but on a Strat or the stereo, you might find an 11. If I'm playing things that I need to bend the top string, then I'll move down to 11. 10 reluctantly, but 11 is another version. So, heavy strings generally.
Okay. Thank you so much for taking the time to show us your rig. Have a great show.
All right then. Cheers.
I'm Shawn Hammond with PremierGuitar.com. Thanks for watching.